Welcome to Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music with your host, multi-award-winning music producer, Eddie Kilroy. And now, here's your host, Eddie Kilroy.
Hey, how in the world are you? Go! Man, I'm telling you, I am ready to have a good time on today's episode of Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends and Behind the Music. Today I'm going to talk about one or two acts. One in particular, and that will be Mark Chestnut. I'm a big Mark Chestnut fan, and so many of you are. I'm also going to talk to you about some of the things that go on behind the curtains, so to speak, at record companies, how artists are made, how they're built, and what have you, and shaped and formed into the image they want. Well, George Strait. What a success story. Absolutely the most successful country artist in the history of country music. No one has reached the sales, no one has gathered the people in huge stadiums like George Strait. How did George Strait happen? I'll tell you how he happened. He happened by being, first of all, a real guy, and also a very talented guy. And I had a friend. He's gone now. He was from Houston, not far from my hometown, and I kind of encouraged him to get in the music business. He wanted in there badly, and I was kind of struggling myself. This was, this was back in the late '60s or so, and he came to Nashville, got a job. He did well. Kind of worked his way up through the industry, and Jimmy Bowen and I had been running MCA Universal in Nashville, and we bought, when they sold, we bought our contracts out when they sold to ABC. And ABC Paramount moved their crew over. One of their crew was a promotion man I was speaking of, and a record promotion man is one of the most important clogs in the wheels of a hit record. They're the ones that get it played on the radio. They're the ones that get it at the one-stops for the jukebox, and they're very paramount in what they do. Well, this particular guy, who was from Texas, same place I'm from, went down to the beer joints, the honky-tonks, hung out, looking around, heard this guy in a club, said, wow, this guy he could be a hit. Pretty gutsy to say that, because this was in the time when country was trying to cross over. Everything had violins and cellos and strings, and it was almost a pop sound. Well, it was a pop sound because everyone wanted to go over to crossover. I'm telling you all this to make a point, okay? Just bear with me. So this particular promotion man, whereas a promotion man will concentrate on every act that is signed to the label that he's working for. Now, they may have 8 acts. That's unusual for a big company. Usually runs 18 to 20 acts. And this promotion man and his field representatives out there, he's not the only guy, are going to be working all these acts. Well, this one guy that I'm getting ready to speak of was national promotion manager for MCA Universal. And he said, hey, come look at this act down in Texas, originally from Poteet, Texas, raised on a ranch there, and he sings real good, and he's got a little band down there playing beer joints. Well, they looked at him, and they signed him. And the guy's name, obviously, was George Strait. Now, George didn't have a lot of experience in the studio. Good-looking guy, pulled off the traditional country sound, and he wore a hat. Now, I'm going to talk to you about hats, okay? I know you go say, I don't want to hear about hats. Hats played a role in this entire scenario during Nashville in the 90s, okay? And Strait started it all. However, Strait was a 24-karat cowboy. He was the real deal, raised on a ranch. He roped. He competed in team roping, and he worked a lot of cattle on his father's ranch and some other ranches down there in that part of Texas. So all of a sudden, he's a star. Well, all of a sudden, it comes out that this friend of mine that had been promoting him had signed a management contract with George sometimes before he went to MCA to record. So all the time, this friend of mine was building this artist for MCA Universal. He was also building a big act for himself, which is nothing wrong with that, except it's really not, I don't want to say unethical. You just don't do it. You know, you promote the acts that you're assigned to work, and that's who you promote, and your energy is levied toward them. However, in this case, it was toward George, and George became an immediate star with the first record, Down and Out, and the Girl I Had Wrapped Around My Finger just came unwound, stuff like that. Dean Dillon and who's the other writer on those two songs? Frank Dacus and Dean Dillon wrote those two songs. And then all of a sudden, a record company said, well, you know, maybe this country music is not going to go away. We better get in the race. And MCA was the one that had it, all right? They said, you know, we've got one out there successful. Let's go sign another one. So, and they did George. He was big, like in '89, something like that. So they signed Mark Chestnut from Beaumont, Texas, working at a club called Cutter's Club there. And he was discovered, and MCA signed him, and he started cutting hits because what a good act, man. He had a bunch of records, a lot of #1 records. He had a gold album. He had a double platinum album. Double platinum album was hard to get. Now, but take George Strait out of the equation, okay? Because George Strait's got a wall full of gold and platinum albums, but it's difficult, trust me. But Mark Chestnut did very well with that double platinum, and then a gold meaning 500,000 sales. Had a lot of hit singles. He had 7 or 8 #1 singles. A lot of them I really well. I liked all of his records. The dogs may be coming back. I don't know. We've got 2 Aussies here, and they pop in and out. And we like to have them though to keep us company. How you girls doing? Good. You know, to sit down there and behave, okay? Brother Jukebox was one of my favorite Mark Chestnut records. It was just had that magic to it. There's something about a record that jumps out of the radio wherever you're listening, and you say, man, that is really, really good. And I'll think of something. Yeah, that was another good one. And what was the other thing? It Sure Is Monday. That was the dandy. Gonna Get a Life, that was a good one. He just kept cranking them out. Gonna Get a Life. It's a Little Too Late. Too Cold at Home. Wow, was that a good one? Man, I am telling you, and he's still working. He had some health problems back in 23, and he had quadruple bypass surgery on his heart. Recovered, went back on the road just like any old Texas boy will do, and started hitting the road again, and still playing dates out there today. Matter of fact, my favorite doctor in the whole wide world, he really is, because he's kept this old man going, is Dr. Gregory Dennis. Yep, and he's a big Mark Chestnut fan, so I hope that I will let him know something about Mark Chestnut that he doesn't know, because first time I get sick, boom, I'm going to Dr. Dennis. Great guy, and has really kept the old man going here, and I appreciate it so much. But Mark Chestnut, getting back to him, is an entertainer. If he's in your area, go see Mark Chestnut and let him knock out some of those hits. I mean, there were some dandies. He's got a lot of awards from the Academy of Country Music, from the Country Music Association, and he's just had all those hits from 1990 to 91. But all the way through that era, he just knocked them dead. I mean, it was just every record he put out, go number one, gold album, platinum album. Still lives in his hometown of Beaumont, Texas. I say that congratulating him for that decision, because I went through the same thing with Mickey Gilley when I started Playboy Records for Hugh Hefner. I signed to Mickey Gilley, and the first record we did was #1 in the nation. The first album we did was #1 in the nation, and that's the way to get a record company started, is when you put your first records out and they go #1, and you've hit home runs. I'm telling you. But Mickey never moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I think that was one of the smartest things in the world, and I talked to Mickey about that. in Nashville, all the country stars just walk around the streets like regular people, which is who they are. They're just regular people that do something else for a living. But you take them for granted because you see Johnny Cash, walking down the street, or Waylon, or any of the guys that have Chet Atkins will be over there. They're just folks, and you wave and say hello. Well, when the guy comes to town that hadn't been on the street every day, like a Mickey Gilley or a Mark Chestnut, there's a buzz going on. So Gilley never moved to Nashville. So when he would come up there would be a buzz among songwriters and publishers. Hey, Gilley's in town. Get your songs ready to pitch to him. Well, the same thing with Mark Chestnut. Built a beautiful home down in Beaumont, Texas. Put his roots down there. That was his hometown. He wasn't leaving. He wasn't moving to Nashville. So when he would come to Nashville, there was a stir of excitement that would not have been there had he been there every day. So he took a page, I guess, from Gilley's book, and it was really smart not to do that. But the cowboy hat deal was something that got to me. It started, Strait wore one, but Strait knew how to wear a cowboy hat because he was a cowboy. Had the right crease in it, had the starched stranglers on, everything was just the way it was supposed to be. But then everybody said, if I'm going to be George Strait, I'm going to have to look like him and act like him, so I'm going to get a hat. Well, Mark Chestnut got a hat, but I will tell you something about Mark Chestnut. I suspect that Mark Chestnut had been wearing a hat most of his life because that's the part of the main uniform of any guy down in the state of Texas. And he was from Beaumont, so he was aware of that. And the same goes with another, what they call hat act, and that was Tracy Byrd from Vidor, Texas, not too far from Beaumont, also discovered at Cutter's Club. Okay, the Cutter's Club there in Beaumont, they produced Mark Chestnut and Tracy Byrd. Pretty doggone good artist, huh? And of course, Strait, he's out there, he's still rocking. Are you kidding? I mean, he's selling records to this day, and he's packing stadiums and venues. But these two guys too, Mark Chestnut, you be sure and go see him, and Tracy Byrd, you go be sure to see him. Okay. And right now, I want to thank our sponsors. Okay. I want to tell you something else too. Before we get off the hat deal, hats are kind of special to me. Everybody has their own particular crease. I wear a crease in all my hats called the cattleman's crease. Somebody else may wear another crease, but it's unique. It's there, and it's on all their hats. The flange, which is the front of the hat, that's important. I'm telling you this, so if you see someone with a hat that isn't just right, you know that they're not 100% cowboy. Trace Atkins, he went and got looked like a black straw hat, went down to Walmart. Yeah, he went to Walmart and bought some black spray, a can of black spray paint, and sprayed his hat black. That's not a cowboy hat. That's a black hat. He sprayed black, okay? And just all kind of stuff is going on in and out, and it's just absolutely insane the way things are going. But the music is going back country, and there's other people's too that Brad Paisley wears a funny hat. But that has nothing to do with their music. But if you're going to represent some industry or something, do it right. But I almost forgot. You know, I was talking about hats. Oh my gosh, the urban cowboy, let me up, please. Let this cowboy up. It is just a weird deal. Gilley and I love Gilley. We made tons of money together. We had a lot of #1 records together. But when Urban Cowboy came out, which made Gilley and Gilley's Club famous all over the world, made them a lot of money. But those darn hats with those feather hat bands and a chicken head on the front of them would make me want to throw up. And everyone in Nashville, Tennessee, in New York City, everyone was wearing straw hats with a chicken head on the front of it, and maybe some possum head. I don't know, but they had feathers everywhere. And it encouraged me to take off my hat. And I had not been without a hat since I was a little boy. I've been wearing a hat all my life and been living that cowboy life all my life. And I started wearing a cap I probably wore a cap for over a year because people would come up to me and they've got one of those dumb-looking hats with a chicken head on it. And they'd say, I wouldn't, but I would have a regular, of course, a nice hat. And they say, oh, where'd you get your hat? Like it was a novelty. And I got tired of that, so I just started wearing a cap. Had a good friend that is gone now. One of the best cowboys that I ever knew in my life was not in the music business. His name was Kid Marley off the Miller Ranch in Justisburg, Texas. And was he a cowboy deluxe? And he talked kind of cowboy, and we were talking about these hats that these people were wearing, urban cowboy hats, the ones with the chicken heads. And old Kiddo in his wisdom said, I think people ought to take a test and get a license to get a hat. And I said, I haven't thought about it that way, but that may be the real deal. One thing I want to thank also is our sponsor, Dr. Harry Anderson. Thank you so much for helping us on this podcast. And Total Feeds, what an operation Dr. Anderson has. He's come up with more formulas that animals and people too just thrive on. Our horses have been on Total Equine for 16, 17, 18 years, ever since it came out, ever since we heard of it. And there's Total Bovine, there's Total Goat, there's Total Dog, Canine, and of course there's Total People, which make you feel better. And you don't have to be in a garden either to eat it. You can just eat it and take it anywhere you want to. But go to the website, totalfeeds.com, and do me a favor. I mean this sincerely. Please subscribe to this podcast. We're trying to build it. We want to make it big enough where we can inform people what went on in Nashville about their favorite artists, what went on behind the scenes, a funny story or whatever. After 40 decades in Nashville, I got a stack of stories that high, and I want to share them with you because the stories will dwindle away. There's only right now 3 or 4 people like myself who have been successful record producers and label heads that are alive today that have the stories. Now we're gone, the stories are going to be gone, and this is something that is fabricated by somebody that really was not there, that didn't go to the original Grand Ole Opry where they had those fans who didn't have air conditioning, what have you. But getting back to what this show is all about is genuine country music. And Mark Chestnut can lay it on you just stronger than Nellie's breath with a bad tooth. I'm telling you. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to call up old paint, and we're going to kind of pull that girth up tight and cinch him up tight and get on him and go south. And I want you to, one more time, subscribe. Send us a note. If you have an act you want to hear about, an artist that's your favorite, and maybe I know some personal stories on that I spent time with, don't hesitate to write us here at Total Equine and actually at Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends. When you write Total Equine, tell Dr. Anderson you heard Kilroy talking about him, make him smile. In the meantime, I'm going to get on old paint, I'm going to saddle up and drift, and I'm going to say, God bless you. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music. If you have any thoughts or questions about the content, email them. Kilroy Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. That's Kilroy, no S, Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. And don't forget to subscribe. Third-party use of any part of this podcast without the expressed consent of Eddie Kilroy is prohibited. The Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music podcast is a production of Eddie Kilroy.